In the village of Kwamthunzi, nestled in the fertile hills of the Eastern Cape, the people were abuzz with excitement. The time had come for the trial of strength, a sacred event held only once every generation, when the chief's son was ready to take a bride. Women from neighboring villages were arriving, each eager to prove their worth and claim the honor of marrying Luthando, the son of Chief Vuyo. Chief Vuyo was a formidable man, known for his strength in battle and wisdom in council. His son, Luthando, while respected for his kindness and intelligence, lacked his father's fierce reputation. Whispers echoed through the village. Could Luthando truly lead as his father did? Who would be strong enough to stand beside him as his wife? Among the arrivals was Amahle, a quiet but strong woman from a distant village. Unlike the others, who boasted about their physical prowess and victories in wrestling competitions, Amahle walked with grace and a quiet confidence. She had trained not in brute strength alone, but in the ancient arts of wisdom, spiritual connection, and balance. As she entered the village, she overheard two young girls whispering excitedly. "Did you see Namusa? They say she can carry a cow on her back," one said. "Yes," the other replied. "She's sure to win. No one else stands a chance. Look at Amahle, she's so small, she'll never survive the trials." Amahle smiled softly, undeterred by their words. She wasn't here to boast or show off, she was here to prove her inner strength. The first day of the trial dawned bright and warm. The village gathered around a large open field where Chief Vuyo and Luthando sat on high stools, watching over the proceedings. The women stood in a line, their eyes on the first challenge, the strength of the body. They were tasked with carrying large boulders across the field, an ancient symbol of the burdens a leader's wife might carry. Namusa stepped forward confidently, hoisting a massive boulder onto her shoulders and striding across the field with ease. The crowd cheered. Others followed, some struggling, some succeeding, until it was Amahle's turn. A few villagers murmured as Amahle approached a boulder much smaller than the one Namusa had chosen. But instead of rushing, she paused, kneeling beside the stone, touching it as if in prayer. "What is she doing?" someone in the crowd asked. Amahle breathed in deeply, then stood and lifted the boulder. Though it was lighter than the others, she carried it with remarkable poise, walking slowly and steadily across the field, her gaze calm and focused. Luthando watched her, intrigued. "Father," he said softly, "she carries more than the weight of a stone." His father grunted, unconvinced. "We shall see, my son. We need strength, not just spirit." That night, the women prepared for the second challenge, the strength of the spirit. They were to spend the night alone in the sacred forest, a place where the spirits of the ancestors were said to roam. The forest was feared for its wild animals and ghostly whispers. Only the brave could survive the night without running in fear. As the women entered the forest, the air grew thick with tension. Amahle found a quiet spot beneath an ancient tree and sat, closing her eyes, calling upon the spirits for guidance. In the distance, she heard footsteps, fast, panicked. It was Namusa, and she was not alone. From the shadows, a pair of glowing eyes emerged. An Inkanyamba, a feared serpent spirit known to haunt the forest. Namusa screamed as it slithered toward her. Amahle rose quietly, walking toward the chaos. She whispered a prayer under her breath, speaking in the language of the ancestors. As the serpent neared, she held out her hand, her voice calm and steady. "Nkosi, I ask for your protection. Guide this creature back to peace." The serpent paused, swaying in front of Amahle before retreating into the shadows. Namusa, trembling, stared in disbelief. "How did you?" Amahle smiled. "We do not fight the spirits, Namusa. We honor them." By the third day, the village was buzzing with talk of Amahle's bravery in the forest. But the next challenge would test more than physical or spiritual strength. It would test wisdom and leadership. The women were brought before the village council to resolve a dispute among the elders. They were given a mock scenario where two elders argued over land, each claiming ownership of a sacred piece of the riverbank. The task was to mediate and reach a peaceful solution. Nomusa quickly suggested dividing the land in half. "Each man can take his portion," she said. Amahle, however, listened carefully as the elders presented their sides. After a moment, she stood. "The river belongs to the ancestors," she said. "It cannot be owned by any man. Instead, let the land remain sacred, shared by the community, as it has been for generations. Let the river flow freely, so that all may benefit." The elders nodded, impressed by her insight. Luthando smiled. "She speaks with wisdom beyond her years." The final challenge was the most dangerous: the dance of flames. A great fire was lit in the center of the village, and the women were tasked with dancing around it, a test of endurance, agility, and spirit. Nomusa, determined to win, danced fiercely, her movements strong and sharp. But in her fervor, she knocked a log from the fire, sending flames roaring higher. The crowd gasped as the fire spread out of control. Amahle stepped forward, raising her hands toward the flames. She began to chant, her voice soft but powerful. The flames, once wild, began to calm, as if obeying her command. The crowd watched in awe as Amahle guided the fire back into place, completing the dance with grace. When the dance ended, Chief Vuyo rose from his seat. "Amahle," he said, his voice booming, "you have shown strength not just in body but in spirit, wisdom, and heart. You have earned the right to stand beside my son." The village erupted in cheers as Amahle smiled, her eyes meeting Luthando's. "You are strong," he said quietly when they were alone. "But your strength comes from a place deeper than any trial could reveal." Amahle nodded. "True strength is not just in what we do, but in how we honor those who came before us and how we care for those around us." And so, Amahle became the wife of Luthando, and together they led the village into a new era of peace and prosperity, where strength was measured not just by power, but by wisdom and compassion. As the village celebrated, Chief Vuyo stood before his people, smiling proudly. "Strength," he said, "is not just in muscles or winning. True strength comes from wisdom, kindness, and the heart to care for others." Luthando turned to Amahle and added, "You have shown us that being strong means leading with compassion and grace. It's not about being the loudest or the toughest, but about lifting others up." Amahle looked at the crowd and smiled. In life, it's not about defeating others, but working together, leading with love, and having the courage to do what's right. The villagers cheered, knowing they had found a leader who would guide them with wisdom and heart. Under the starry sky, a new chapter began for the village, filled with hope and unity.